All right. So you know how sometimes you walk away from talking to someone and you're like, ugh,
Yeah.
I just didn't really connect with them, or like
Catalyst.
you're kind of dreading going into a party or something because you're like, what am I even going to talk
It's
about?
like that fear of small talk.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you sent in this really cool guide about how to be better at conversation,
Mm-hmm.
like how to be more confident, how to be more effective.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today.
This is going to be good.
We're going to try to pull out some really practical things that you can use like tomorrow
Yeah, like in your everyday life.
so that you can feel better about talking to people and make it a more enjoyable experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not about like learning some tricks to,
Yeah. No cheesy pickup lines.
dominate every conversation
Yeah.
or, it's about,
Being a jerk.
yeah, exactly. Like actually connecting with people
Yeah.
and understanding, you know, what makes for good communication so you can, build better relationships.
In your daily life.
Okay, so the first thing that this guide talks about kind of surprised me a little bit.
Oh,
It talks about preparation,
okay.
which I thought was kind of counterintuitive because I was thinking like
Interesting.
casual conversation, you shouldn't have to prepare for that, right?
Well,
But it actually makes a lot of sense because they talk about taking a few minutes beforehand to just kind of think about
yeah.
what you might want to talk about or what you might want to learn from the other person.
Oh, that's a good point.
But it's not about like writing a script, right?
No. It's more about priming your mind, right?
Right.
Like giving yourself a little bit of a head start so that you're not
Yeah.
totally blank when you walk into this, into the situation.
Okay.
But what I found really fascinating about this whole section on preparation is that it really emphasizes being present.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's so important,
Tech
especially
these days, right?
oh my gosh, especially these days.
Yeah.
We're so distracted all the time. Phone in hand,
Right. Right.
So putting those distractions away, even just like putting your phone in your pocket,
Yeah.
is like a huge signal to the person that you're talking to that
Absolutely.
you're actually there with them.
You're giving them your full attention. You value the conversation.
Right.
And I think that really sets the stage for
Yeah.
a much more,
Engaging interaction.
yeah, genuine and engaging.
Okay, so you're present.
Right.
You've got a couple things in the back of your mind that you might want to talk about.
Yeah.
How do you actually start the conversation?
Right. How do you break the ice?
Yeah, they talk about just a simple, friendly greeting,
Yeah.
which seems obvious,
Oh,
but
yeah. Like, hi, how are you?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then looking for common ground,
Yeah.
which also seems
Pretty natural, right?
natural, right?
Like something you probably already do.
But then they highlight open-ended questions.
Oh, yeah. Those are good.
So questions that you can't just answer with yes or no. Why do they put so much emphasis on that?
Well, it's like, think of it as opening a door.
Oh.
Instead of like a yes or no question, which kind of,
Yeah, it's a dead end.
it's like a dead end, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, okay, what's next?
Right.
But an open-ended question, you're inviting the other person to like share.
To tell a story.
Yeah, to tell their story, to
Yeah.
share their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences.
And I think that ties in too with like what you were saying earlier about
Yeah,
wanting to learn different perspectives.
absolutely.
Like you're not going to get that from a yes or no question.
No, not at all.
Hmm.
So is instead of asking someone like, did you have a good day?
Right.
Which they could just be like, yeah.
Yeah.
You say something like, what was the most interesting part of your day?
Oh, right.
And then suddenly they're like, oh, well, let me tell you.
Right. They have to think about it.
It sparks a conversation.
Okay. So you asked your open-ended question.
Okay.
They're talking, how do you keep that going?
How do you keep the momentum?
How do you not make it just a one and done kind of thing?
Right. So the guide talks a lot about active listening and then following up with more questions.
And that's more than just waiting for your turn to speak, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Active listening is about really showing the other person
You're engaged.
that you're engaged, that you're
Okay.
interested in what they have to say.
Yeah.
It's about nodding, making eye contact, maybe even like briefly summarizing what they've just said, just to show that you're,
That you get it.
yeah, that
Oh.
you're with them.
Right.
And then asking follow-up questions
Right.
shows that you're not just going through the motions. You're actually,
Yeah.
trying to delve deeper and really understand their perspective.
Yeah.
And I think the guide also makes a really good point about sharing your own relevant experiences.
Oh.
It's not just about,
Not just an interrogation.
yeah, it's not an interrogation. It's about creating a reciprocal flow, like showing that you're also willing to be open and vulnerable and
Right.
share a little bit about yourself. So
Oh,
it becomes more of a,
A give and take.
exactly, a give and take, a real conversation.
Okay. Now we all know that conversations aren't always perfect.
Oh, yeah, they can be messy.
What about those awkward silences?
Oh, the dreaded awkward silence.
Or those moments where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say next.
And where do we go from here?
And the guide actually says that silence is okay,
Oh, that's good to hear.
which I think is really reassuring because,
Yeah, sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves
yeah, like you have to fill every silence.
to keep the conversation going.
But sometimes a pause is good.
It's a moment to reflect,
Yeah, to think
And
about what you just heard.
to formulate your next thought.
Yeah.
And sometimes, maybe the conversation has run its course. And that's okay too.
Right.
And they also talk about humor
Right.
as a way to lighten the mood.
But I'm guessing it has to be natural.
Oh yeah,
They
definitely.
can't force it.
If you're
Yeah,
trying to be funny, it's just going to be,
it's going to be worse.
it's going to backfire.
Yeah,
So I think the key takeaway here is authenticity.
right.
Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try to be someone you're not.
Be comfortable with those silences.
Embrace the pauses.
Yeah.
And let the conversation unfold naturally.
Okay, so you've had your great conversation.
Right.
How do you wrap it up?
Right. How do you end on a good note?
Like, without being awkward.
Without it being like, okay, I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So the guide talks about paying attention to nonverbal cues.
Okay.
Like if the person starts looking around the room or...
Like their feet are pointed toward the door.
Yeah. Or they kind of shift their posture.
Yeah, yeah.
That might be a sign that they're
They're ready to move on?
ready to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And then they say to end on a positive note,
Right.
like express thanks for the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even suggest a future interaction.
Right, like, let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that way you're leaving them with a good feeling.
Right?
And you're reinforcing that connection that you've hopefully made.
Okay, so from this guide, it sounds like becoming a better conversationalist
Yeah.
isn't about learning some, magic formula.
No.
It's really about being thoughtful in your approach, being present in the moment,
Yeah.
genuinely curious about the other person,
Mm.
and just engaging with authenticity and grace.
Absolutely.
It's those little shifts in mindset
Right.
and our behavior that can make such a difference.
And if you think about it, these aren't just tips for small talk.
Yeah.
These are really skills that we can use.
In all aspects of our lives.
Yeah, in our careers, in our personal relationships.
Right.
They're fundamental to,
Yeah, being a human being.
to building strong relationships, to fostering understanding, to just navigating the world.
So for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
I want you to think about the next conversation you have.
Yeah.
And I want you to pick one thing from our deep dive today.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, being more mindful of active listening
Yeah.
or asking more open-ended questions,
Those are good ones.
and just try it.
See what happens.
Yeah, see what happens.
It's an experiment.
Yeah, just one little thing
Yeah.
and see how it changes the interaction.
Yeah, I love that.
And who knows, maybe it'll make a big difference.
Yeah, you never know.
All right, well, thanks for joining us today on the Deep Dive.
This was fun.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Yeah?
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.